here we go again. Weird Warren's video countdown.
Thanks.
Yes.
I see why Uncle Curtis is always parked in his chair. I could get used to this right here.
A lot has happened to me, for me, you know, in those years. I shot a TV series with Tyler for 20 years, you know.
Wow. Allen Payne tried to warn us about Tyler Perry, but we didn't listen. His sudden disappearance wasn't random. Behind the cameras were whispers of betrayal, blacklists, and a machine that punished anyone who didn't play by the rules.
One of the things in our community that people have to understand is that you can't rely on institutions for your health and for your life.
Now, with lawsuits piling up, actors speaking out, and fans connecting the dots, Payne's silence feels less like a personal choice and more like a warning.
Now, actor and filmmaker Tyler Perry sued for $260 million over harassment allegations. The complaint filed in Los Angeles accuses Perry of creating a, quote, coercive, exploitative dynamic with actor Derek Dixon.
If Christian Key's, Monique, and Derek Dixon's stories are true, then Allen Payne may have been the first to see the cracks in Tyler Perry's empire. So, let's get into it. In the early 90s, Allen Payne was a rising star whose natural talent and magnetic screen presence made him unforgettable. Born on July 7, 1968, in Harlem, New York, Payne didn't grow up with a silver spoon. His parents, Alan Roberts and Barbara Reeves, taught him grit and perseverance, qualities that would carry him from the streets of Harlem to Hollywood's biggest stages. As a young man, Payne dreamed of becoming a professional basketball player. But when those dreams didn't pan out, he discovered a new passion: acting. He trained diligently at HB Studio in New York City, perfecting his craft while facing the kind of rejection every young actor knows too well. Then, at just 22 years old, Payne landed his first significant role on television. As Lance Rodman, the charming boyfriend of Charmaine on The Cosby Show, Payne quickly became a familiar face to millions of viewers. It was only the beginning. Soon, he was making guest appearances on hit shows like The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air and earning a regular spot on Malcolm and Eddie. But it was 1991's New Jack City that truly cemented his legacy. As G-Money, Payne's emotional and layered performance stood out even alongside Wesley Snipes' powerhouse presence. Payne's star continued to rise through the 90s and early 2000s. He took on diverse roles in Jason's Lyric, Vampire in Brooklyn, and even music videos, proving he could navigate romance, drama, and comedy with equal skill. Hollywood recognized him as both a heartthrob and a serious actor. Then came House of Payne. Cast as C.J. Payne, Allen became the emotional core of Tyler Perry's hit sitcom, a character who resonated deeply with audiences. The show became a ratings juggernaut, running for 8 seasons and making Payne a household name once again. But in 2012, everything changed. After House of Payne wrapped its original run, Allen Payne disappeared from the public eye. No interviews, no new projects, no red carpet appearances. It was as if he had vanished overnight. Industry whispers offered several explanations. Some said Payne had simply stepped away to rest after years of intense work. Others speculated about more troubling reasons for his retreat, with one former crew member allegedly claiming that Payne walked off set during a tense rehearsal. Years passed with no word from the actor. Then, in 2018, Payne made an unexpected return, reprising his role as CJ in a House of Payne revival. Fans were thrilled, but they couldn't help noticing something had changed. Viewers described his demeanor as quieter, more reserved, even emotionally flat. His eyes, once filled with charisma and energy, now seemed to carry a heaviness that couldn't be ignored. Was this simply the mark of a man who had matured and found inner peace? Or was there something deeper, something unspoken, lurking beneath the surface? When Allen Payne returned to television in 2018, fans were overjoyed. House of Payne had been revived, and with it, C.J. Payne, the role that had made Allen a household name. But the celebration didn't last long. It wasn't just Allen's appearance that caught people's attention. It was his demeanor. In interviews and on screen, he seemed quieter, almost distant. Viewers described him as emotionally flat. His signature spark noticeably dimmed. For some, this was just a sign of maturity. After all, 6 years had passed since his last appearance. But for others, it was a red flag. Whispers started spreading about why Payne had disappeared in the first place, and why he now seemed so guarded. Much of the speculation centered on Tyler Perry's so-called inner circle. Perry is known for working repeatedly with a select group of actors, rewarding loyalty with consistent roles across his sprawling media empire. Stars like Cassie Davis and LaVan Davis became staples in Perry's projects, always present, always visible. But Allen Payne? He was different. Even at the height of House of Payne's success, Payne rarely engaged in the press circuits or public appearances that other cast members embraced. While his co-stars spoke often about Perry's mentorship and generosity, Payne maintained a noticeable distance. Some interpreted this as professionalism, others as discomfort. But what happens if you're not? Rumors began circulating that those outside Perry's favored circle often found themselves frozen out of future opportunities. Fans pointed to actors who disappeared after a single Perry project, sparking theories about unspoken rules and power dynamics. Payne's 6-year hiatus only added fuel to the fire. One theory suggested that Payne's absence wasn't entirely voluntary. Some believed he may have clashed with Perry behind the scenes. A now-deleted post from a person claiming to have been on set alleged that Payne once had a heated argument during rehearsals, storming off after refusing to comply with a particular request. While unverified, the story spread quickly among fans already eager for answers. And then there were the darker rumors, the idea that Perry's tight-knit circle wasn't just about loyalty, but about compliance, that those unwilling to play by unspoken rules might be quietly removed. It's important to note, there's no evidence Allen Payne ever spoke publicly about such issues, but his silence didn't stop fans from drawing their own conclusions. Years later, when Derek Dixon, an actor from Perry's The Oval and Ruthless, filed a $260 million lawsuit accusing Perry of harassment and retaliation.
Now, actor and filmmaker Tyler Perry sued for $260 million over allegations. The complaint filed in Los Angeles accuses Perry of creating a, quote, coercive, exploitative dynamic with actor Derek Dixon.
Dixon's lawsuit wasn't vague or speculative. It outlined a chilling timeline, from the first time Perry allegedly picked him out of a crowd in 2019, to the alleged groping incident in 2021, and all the manipulative behavior in between. According to the filing, their relationship began like so many Hollywood stories do, an opportunity. Perry reportedly noticed Dixon at an event, struck up a conversation, and soon after, offered him a minor role on Ruthless. It seemed like a golden ticket, but what started as mentorship allegedly turned into grooming. Dixon claimed that in 2020, he was invited to Perry's Atlanta home. After drinking too much, he passed out in a guest room, only to wake up with Perry allegedly touching his thigh. That was the moment things changed. The worst moment, according to Dixon, came in June 2021. While staying in a guest house connected to Perry's property, he claims Perry entered, pulled down his underwear, groped him, and said, "Relax and just let it happen."
He claims that while he was asleep, Perry climbed into bed with him and tried to initiate. Dixon says he tried to distance himself from Perry, but he was offered a role on Perry's show, The Oval.
Dixon said he panicked, changed the subject, tried to defuse it without escalating. But from that moment, he said he lived in fear, trying to navigate a working relationship with someone he believed had the power to end his career overnight. By 2024, Dixon says he could no longer take it. He filed a complaint with the Equal Employment Opportunity Commission and quit The Oval, calling the environment intolerable. What made the lawsuit even more damning was its scope. It didn't just focus on Dixon, it mentioned others, including Christian Keyes, specifically alleging that Perry's company may have subjected him to similar harassment. And then came the most shocking part. The lawsuit alleged that Keyes was paid to stay silent. This was the confirmation fans feared. That Christian's silence wasn't a choice, it was purchased. Tyler Perry's attorney, Matthew Boyd, issued a firm denial. He called the lawsuit a baseless shakedown. But he didn't deny the texts were real. He didn't deny the timeline. And he offered no explanation for why multiple actors across different time periods were telling similar stories. Many couldn't help but think back to Payne's quiet exit from House of Payne. Was this just coincidence, or had Payne's experience been an early warning sign? As more details about Perry's alleged conduct emerged, fans began re-examining Allen Payne's journey. Not just his absence, but his entire time working within Perry's world. For Allen Payne, success in Hollywood didn't shield him from life's hardest blows. Behind the fame of New Jack City and the warmth of House of Payne was a man carrying an unimaginable weight. In rare interviews, Payne revealed that his family had been ravaged by chronic diseases. He spoke of standing by helplessly as loved ones grew sick and eventually passed away. "They deteriorated right in front of me," Payne said softly. "One by one, they were gone. I realized I had to change my life or I might be next." This realization marked the start of a journey far removed from red carpets and camera flashes. Payne immersed himself in health and wellness, beginning with small steps like cutting meat from his diet. Over time, those steps became a transformation: vegetarianism, raw veganism, and even exploring ancient healing practices. But Payne's journey wasn't only physical, it was deeply spiritual. Faith became his anchor as he navigated grief, isolation, and a growing disillusionment with the Hollywood machine. He began speaking at wellness events and charities, sharing knowledge he had once guarded for himself. "It's miraculous how God works," Payne reflected. "When you take responsibility for your healing, your belief increases. And as your belief grows, so does your life." To his fans, Payne's absence from Hollywood seemed to make sense now. But for others, the sudden shift felt like more than a personal journey. It felt like a man trying to recover from something unspeakable. Whispers grew about Payne's time on House of Payne, about emotional tension on set, about a now-deleted account of him walking out of rehearsal. Without evidence, these stories remained shadows. But they added to a growing belief that Payne's silence was not just a choice, but a necessity. And when he finally returned to acting, reprising his role as C.J. Payne, fans couldn't help but notice the difference. His once vibrant presence seemed tempered, his eyes carrying a heaviness they hadn't before. He looked like a man who had been through a storm, not defeated, but forever changed.
Jazzy, can you bring Pookie some more refreshments so that he could refresh his buzz? On God!
Whatever Allen Payne faced during his years away, it was clear he had come back a different man. But there was still one question no one could answer. What exactly had driven him to step away in the first place? As Allen Payne poured himself into faith and holistic healing, the outside world was left to wonder. His absence from screens hadn't gone unnoticed, and in his silence, speculation grew louder. While Allen Payne was healing in private, fans on the outside started asking tougher questions. What could have driven him to walk away at the peak of his success? And why did his return feel different? It started as whispers, stories shared in passing by people who claimed to have been there. One account, now deleted, described a tense moment on the House of Payne, set in the early 2010s. The person alleged that Payne had stormed out during a rehearsal, visibly upset after what they called a disagreement with production. They claimed he didn't return for the rest of the day, and when he did come back to film later episodes, his energy seemed different. more guarded, less present. The story was never confirmed by any cast or crew, but it was enough to ignite a theory that Payne might have been on the verge of exposing something about his experience. Could he have witnessed or endured a toxic environment on set? Was there an unspoken truth about why he left Hollywood so abruptly? This theory evolved into something even more controversial, that Payne had considered blowing the whistle but was ultimately pressured into silence. Fans speculated that Perry's empire, known for its tight control, might have offered Payne financial compensation to ensure the details never came out. This became the basis of the so-called hidden lawsuit myth. The theory suggests that Payne was involved in a sealed legal case against Tyler Perry Studios, citing emotional distress and possibly workplace misconduct. Supporters of the theory pointed to his 6-year disappearance and his reserved nature upon returning as evidence of a behind-the-scenes settlement. But there's a glaring problem. Extensive searches of court records reveal no trace of such a lawsuit. Neither Perry's team nor Payne has ever commented on the rumor, leaving it in the murky territory between conspiracy and possibility. While some saw Payne's silence as an act of self-preservation, others believed it was a moral choice. As a man of faith, perhaps he refused to retaliate against those who may have wronged him, choosing instead to focus on healing and guiding others. Whatever the truth, fans couldn't ignore the shift in Payne when he returned to House of Payne in 2018. His performances were solid, but his charisma felt subdued. Even in interviews, he seemed wary, speaking carefully, as if measuring every word. He was still Allen Payne, one longtime viewer said, but he wasn't the same Allen Payne. It's like Hollywood had taken a piece of him. Was his silence a quiet warning? Or was it simply the way a man who had seen too much protected his soul? One thing was clear. Whatever happened, Allen Payne wasn't ready to talk about it. And maybe he never would. Allen Payne's silence left fans with more questions than answers. But as he quietly stepped away, others tried to speak about experiences that sounded all too familiar. While Allen chose faith and healing, their voices hinted at something darker lurking behind the success of Tyler Perry's empire. And soon, those whispers turned into allegations, lawsuits, and stories that rocked the industry. One person was actor Christian Keyes, someone fans had watched rise through the ranks of Black Hollywood. Handsome, talented, charismatic, and, most importantly, connected. Christian had worked with Tyler Perry since the early 2000s, performing in Perry's stage plays and later appearing in his film and TV productions. But in late 2023, Christian Keyes went live on Instagram and dropped what many now call the first red flag in the Tyler Perry scandal.
That he showed up to my apartment and offered me $100,000 to take my clothes off. He said, "I don't even need to touch you. I just want to see you naked."
He didn't name names, but he didn't need to. He talked about a billionaire black producer who had harassed him for years, someone who allegedly offered him $100,000 to strip, someone who pursued him after auditions, someone who tried to lure him back to private residences, and when that didn't work, turned cold.
I didn't sell my soul or my... Excuse my French, y'all. I know some of y'all, hopefully y'all don't have no kids around, but I didn't sell nothing for success.
He hinted that his refusal to give in led to career sabotage. He spoke about being punished for his boundaries, about having to take the scenic route in Hollywood while watching other men get rewarded for being more compliant. Most shockingly, he revealed that he had receipts.
I started recording, so I have them offering me money to take my clothes off. I have recordings when I wasn't working with them or for them.
Keyes made it clear he wasn't just blowing off steam, he was protecting himself. And almost immediately, social media lit up with speculation. Who else in Hollywood was a billionaire, black, powerful, and someone Christian had worked with directly? All signs pointed to Tyler Perry. Keyes didn't confirm it. In fact, a few weeks later, he tried to walk it back, insisting that he never named anyone and didn't want to hurt any careers. But by then, the seed had been planted. And then, in June 2025, everything shifted. Derek Dixon, another black actor from one of Perry's shows, filed a $260 million lawsuit. He named Tyler Perry directly, accusing him of harassment, manipulation, and buried inside the court documents was Christian Keyes' name. The lawsuit alleged that Tyler Perry Studios may have subjected Keyes and others to similar behavior, and worse, it claimed Keyes had been paid off, that TPS compensated him and threatened him to keep quiet. It was exactly what fans feared when Keyes went silent after that viral live. Not that he had lied, but that he'd been bought. Suddenly, the Instagram Live didn't feel like a random outburst. It felt like a test balloon, a moment of honesty before the pressure came crashing back down. And that made everyone wonder, what did Christian Keyes really go through? And if Tyler Perry was willing to pay him to disappear, how many others never even got the chance to speak? Then there is Monique. Long before Perry faced legal scrutiny, Monique had been trying to warn us. She wasn't just dismissed, she was vilified. Her fallout with Perry and Oprah is now infamous. But behind the headlines is a story of broken trust, betrayal, and financial sabotage that cost her not just money, but nearly her entire career. According to Monique, it all began in 2009 when she starred in Precious. Despite winning an Oscar for her role, she was labeled difficult after refusing to do unpaid international press. She wasn't contractually obligated to promote the film beyond domestic obligations, and she made that clear.
Only for Tyler Perry to admit he did start a rumor that I was difficult to work with.
That's when everything changed. Behind the scenes, she says Tyler Perry, Oprah Winfrey, and Lee Daniels conspired to blackball her from the industry. Perry, in particular, is accused of lying to executives, telling them she was problematic and refusing to correct the narrative, even after admitting he made it up.
You admitted that, brother. How do you make that right?
I'm sure you got lawyers. Have you had a conversation?
Well, what happens is when you take somebody at their word, time. We don't need to go to no lawyers, Tyler. You know what you did. Just make it right.
Monique sat in that industry exile for over a decade. According to her, she was making $2 to $3 million a year before the fallout. Do the math. She lost tens of millions based on a lie Perry admitted to in private but never corrected publicly.
Do you know, Shannon, that's cost my family tens of millions of dollars?
Yeah.
But the financial loss wasn't even the deepest wound. In a moment that still haunts her, Oprah invited Monique's estranged parents onto her show after Monique had confided in her privately about their painful relationship. That, she says, was the ultimate betrayal. And when it came time to reconcile, Oprah gave a weak, indirect apology during a group panel, saying, "If I've done anything wrong, I apologize." To Monique, that wasn't an apology. It was a deflection. The worst part? Tyler Perry allegedly called her into a private room during the Precious promo run, surrounded by staff. She brought her security in. As soon as Perry closed the door, his entire team allegedly scattered like they were used to this kind of setup. Monique says he pressured her to do press she wasn't being paid for, dangling the carrot of a $3 to $8 million future payday. When she refused, Perry allegedly backed off, but later joined the campaign to smear her reputation anyway. She later revealed that even Reggie Wells, Oprah's former makeup artist, overheard Oprah say she'd never pay her anything, despite knowing she deserved it. Monique doesn't want pity. What she wants is accountability. She wants Oprah and Perry to say publicly what they said privately, that they were wrong, that they lied, that they cost her millions. And if they want to make it right, they'll have to say it in the same spotlight that helped ruin her name. And yet, Perry remains silent. Oprah remains silent. And Monique? She's still speaking. Because if they could do it to her, who else did they do it to? And maybe that's why Allen decided to take a seat back from the industry for a while. Maybe he saw the machine for what it was, a system that punishes those who speak and rewards those who play along. Allen Payne has never pointed fingers. He's never named names. But his 6-year absence and his cautious return speak volumes to fans who have followed his journey. Because when you look at the stories of Christian Keys and Monique, a pattern emerges. Both tried to sound the alarm, and both were met with silence, or worse, retaliation. Keys hinted at harassment, manipulation, and career sabotage before falling quiet. Monique lost over a decade of work for refusing to bend to the industry's unspoken rules. And Derek Dixon's lawsuit alleged the kind of systemic abuse that makes you wonder how many others never got the chance to tell their story. In the end, maybe Allen's choice wasn't just about self-care. Maybe it was survival. What's chilling is how effective that silence has been. Tyler Perry's empire keeps growing. His shows keep airing. And for every voice that dares to speak, there seem to be a dozen more erased before they ever reach the surface. And yet the whispers don't stop. The stories keep surfacing. Perhaps that's why Allen Payne's story resonates so deeply, not because he confirmed the rumors, but because he didn't need to. His silence became its own kind of statement, one that leaves us with an unsettling question. If someone as loved and respected as Allen Payne chose to retreat, what does that say about what's really happening behind the scenes? And how many more stories are out there, waiting, like his, to be heard? Only time will tell. Anyway, that's it for this video, folks. Bye.